And I'm pretty sure Scott's going to introduce himself pretty well, too. Just,
stuff.
my guess. That's what most speakers do. This is the dawn of the drone, stopping the wireless threat. Scott submitted a CFP that we just did not see coming. And with everything that's been in the news, we really wanted to hear what Scott had to say about new threats that are out there. And with some of the things that have happened recently with drone surveillance and other drone legality questions, yeah, we had to hear what this talk was about. So please clap and thank Scott Schober, please.
How do I throw this guy up here? Switch it over? Is it anything special?
That one. And you're good to go.
Oh, great. And I got the. All right. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. Sweet. Thank you. So again, this is a little bit different presentation. I listened to some of the earlier presentations here, and excellent stuff here. And this I'm going to focus a little bit more on the wireless side, wireless threats and things that are emerging, and then in the latter half focusing a little bit more combining the two, wireless threats and bringing drones into it. Just going to give you a little bit of a brief background here. Who am I? My name is Scott Schober. I'm the President CEO, Berkeley Varitronic Systems. We're a small privately held company, and we're based out of Metuchen, New Jersey, right outside of New York City. And again, we focus in on wireless threat detection tools. Many of these things we sell to the DoD agencies of various sorts, CIA, NSA, all the way up to the White House. And we typically focus in on anything that's of cellular nature that's a threat, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, or anything outside that spectrum. And our background, really what got us into the wireless area and that niche, was back in about the mid to late 80s, where we were approached to design some of the first test equipment to build out the cell networks. So we built propagation equipment, receivers, transmitters, and propagation software, and that's where we got our expertise, and eventually a lot of the offshoots of that resulted in security tools. So we built several different types of cellular interceptors, direction finding systems, a lot of black boxes that went to different government agencies again. Now, thinking about certainly this show, I'm kind of excited for tonight. There's an 80s party. I feel a little bit overdressed here. As the president of the company, I had to show up in a suit and tie so I can kind of loosen up a little bit here. I think I'm one of the few people that actually wore a tie here, but it was a bet, so I actually won the bet. Now I can loosen up and relax a little bit. Thinking back to the 80s for myself and my brother Craig here, who's going to be the pilot later on for the drone, was kind of an exciting time. Here we are working in the family business here with technology and developing things, and at the same time, my father worked for Atari. He was the VP of the research labs out in New York City. So it was a really neat time because we got to do a little bit of everything. And back then, we were, at a very young age, hackers. What we would do is actually copy or pirate games back then for fun. We copied every game known to man. We started out with the early Apple computers, building them by hand. Of course, got interested in a lot of the Atari game systems. And we had a great time copying games. At one point, we were brought in, myself and my brother Craig over there, and we were actually some of the earlier beta testers for a lot of games. Dig Dug in particular was one of our favorites, where we were actually asked to go home and play games until our eyes were bleeding out of our heads. So we stayed up in the wee hours of the night, and our parents would yell at us to go to bed, and we'd say, well, we're working here. We're not going to be going to sleep. We've got to finish our assignment. And we were compensated not by any money or anything else, but rather all the pizza and soda that we could possibly drink was what they would reward us when we went into the labs and report our findings and share all the bugs. So it was a lot of fun. We even built some interesting EEPROM burners where we would go to the kids' houses when they bought the latest Atari game. We'd bring them home, we'd trade them. Then we'd at night copy all their games and give it back until we amassed every single Atari game that was out there, as well as all the Apple games, and had a lot of fun pirating that stuff and doing things. So, but over time, hackers and the terminology obviously changed to what it is today. There's a lot more association with maybe some negative connotivity with cyber breaches and the things of that sort. And it's kind of come full circle for us because we spend a lot of our time selling to different agencies that are chasing down hackers. And then we also report about the breaches, all the way from the breaches of Target and Home Depot and all those things that all of us are very familiar with and probably sick of hearing on the media. We report on a lot of those breaches and share best practices to help educate people to prevent these things from happening again and again. But just thinking about the cell phone back then into the 80s to kind of where we are today. Right now, there's well over 6.8 billion cell phones that are being used around the globe. And that's a pretty staggering event in contrast to when you go back to 1984, there were, I think, 91,600 active cellular subscribers back then with the first network that was built out when we were designing our test equipment that time ago. What's changed, though? Look at the phones nowadays. Smartphones, they got everything. They're like supercomputers, and we know that. It's got Bluetooth, it's got Wi-Fi, it's got GPS in there at the 1500 megahertz. We've got near-field communication for mobile banking and so on and so forth. So our phones are becoming very, very powerful computers, but the other side of the coin is that they can also be very attractive for hackers to use to exploit vulnerabilities and to compromise security. And we see that again and again. More and more people are using Wi-Fi on their phones. In fact, reports are that more than half of the people that are using smartphones are using open, free Wi-Fi, which we all know are very vulnerable, again, to hacks and other things like that. So people hear about it, but they just don't have enough education or understanding, or they're just too lazy. And oftentimes they're compromised, which is a result of a lot of these breaches over and over again. Well, a lot of people ask, how do you detect these mobile phones coming into secure spaces? So we have a niche areas that we sell to actively, and we've developed this really a line of different tools. And what we focus on is unique algorithms and our understanding of how cell phones work and wireless works, coupled with direction finding capability. And that's where it's powerful. Most of us think about trying to find a bad guy, and you see maybe CSI or some of these other shows. What do? They triangulate between three towers, and they say, oh, here's the breadcrumb where the guy is going. It's not exactly that true how it works to that detail. Oftentimes they get down to, only so much accuracy, plus or minus X number of hundreds of yards. And that's usually where our tool would come in. They're reaching the black box, and now you can hone in on a particular signal and direction find. You move in just like a Geiger counter with a peak hold. As the signal strength increases, you're getting closer to your target. And that's how we typically do it here with the Wolfhound Pro. You see the unit there. We also display the frequency as well, so you can, again, channel that energy and try to find the bad guy. Now, if somebody has a need to go covert, we've also made a small version, which is called the Pocket Hound. And that's simply a full-blown cell phone detector. We're scanning all the 3G and 4G bands, whatever the modulation technique is, GSM, CDMA, doesn't matter. We'll still hone in on that. And what it'll do is simply alert the person that's trying to detect them by vibrating in your pocket. You could also glance down and you see the LEDs, the signal strength indicator, increase as you get closer to your target. So you're like a walking direction finding antenna. The interesting part, we're selling this to government agencies, and what happened? It caught on in other areas. Prisons for finding contraband cell phones, and the one that I found the most unique or interesting was teachers. The number of students that are cheating on their test is amazing. And it's really a global phenomenon. How many people are pulling out the mobile phone, doing a quick Google search or phone a friend and text to find an answer to an exam, an entrance exam, or how to fly a plane, or it doesn't matter, whatever it is. So we've sold thousands of these units to people just to make cheating go away. It's an amazing problem. I'm not going to ask if anyone's ever cheated on a test. I've done that in a few times when I've spoken. It's amazing how many hands go up and then they kind of go down there. But it's a very common problem, unfortunately. Now, if you look at technology and how it keeps evolving and changing, the one thing that we always get the question about is, okay, Scott, so you're hunting down mobile phones, you're looking for that radio frequency energy, and you're trying to detect it. What happens if somebody is smarter than you and shuts the phone off? What do you do? Well, we kept thinking about it for years, and this was going on for since about 2010. We started at the problem, trying to understand, how do you find a phone that's shut off or the battery's removed? There's no way to do it if it's not transmitting. Now, it's true, phones do transmit to the cell towers if you have them in the standby mode. So most of us have our phones on in the standby mode, autonomously registers to the tower for less than a second, and that could happen every minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I've seen some phones 55 minutes. So it's not something that we can easily predict. So what we did was we focused on a different technology. We looked at the high-powered neodymium magnets inside all of our cell phones. microphone, speaker, the little vibrator motor have these high-powered magnets. So basically we designed a ferromagnetic detector that could find cell phones. And we made a full portal system, so it does full-body detection. 2 weeks ago, I got a phone call from South Africa. We sold about 10 or so systems there for the prisons because of a high problem with contraband cell phones being smuggled in, and a lot of which they're using the drones to fly the phones in. They want to be able to detect how to find these phones. Well, an individual inmate went through the portal system, and it alerted about the midsection of his body, and they said, okay, pat him down. We don't see anything. The machine's broken. Do it again. Went through, same alert. Checked him, no phone. Take his clothes off, inspect. Can't find a phone. Send him to medical, and sure enough, in this case, he swallowed it. Yeah, he swallowed it. Went down and got down there, digestive area, and I guess got stuck. So they had to cut him open or wait a day or two to get the evidence there. So messy situation, but this is a reoccurring problem that keeps happening. In fact, not too long ago, I wrote a letter to, we're from New Jersey, so Governor Christie, who's eyeing to be the president in the not-too-distant future, about the problem of cell phones in prisons, and it just keeps going on and on. So actually, we got a phone call back, surprisingly, from a special investigative group that was told, hey, come down here, demonstrate your technology. And they shared the story with us before they started buying our tools. And they said there was one individual that they actually caught in a state facility in New Jersey, and he had 5 mobile phones that he shoved up his rectum, if you could believe it or not. And he did it very fast because the guards were coming. He didn't have time to shut them off. So what they actually do is use our tools, in this case the Wolfhound Pro. They put them in an isolation unit. If they suspect anybody that quickly stuck a phone up the keister, and they stand there. And when the phone sees the phone register to the base station, they say, send them down to medical and extract the phone out. So a true story, but scary story, the value of cell phones and the harm that they can cause there. And of course, there's a whole bunch of different types of integration that we've done, working with the different agencies, the FBI, CIA, so on and so forth, a lot of NSA work, where we're integrating our technology, wireless sensors into everyday common things that we don't even think about. A book, one of my favorites, a water bottle, where we have a hollowed out compartment. We put our sensors in there. We even did a version which is a wireless camera in the 5 gigahertz range. So it's high definition video and audio with a pinhole camera. And a lot of these sting operations you see on the news, they'll use that. If you ever notice they walk in with a water bottle, well, we developed some of that technology where you could walk in and actually spot somebody there, record the video, backhauls it to the van outside, and they do these investigative shows, as well as covert thermostats and things of that sort. So a whole bunch of different integration that we've actually done there. Now, switching it up a little bit, talking more specifically about Wi-Fi, because Wi-Fi is everywhere. Every one of our smartphones has Wi-Fi on it, and it's incredible. It allows us to do so many things, to connect into the internet that we could never do just a couple years back. We developed our first tool back in around the year 2000 when they were ratifying the standards there for 802.11b, the IEEE. Pretty much anybody in this room, very few, really understood or knew what was going on back then. And we were developing at the early stages with Intersil and a lot of the other early adopters for the standard chipsets and ways to demodulate that protocol, which eventually evolved to what it is today. Now it's really covering the globe. And there's estimates over 10 billion Wi-Fi devices sold worldwide. And most of us probably heard a lot about the IoT Internet of Things. Now it's taking it to the next dimension where wirelessly what's happening? Everywhere we go, our car or in our house, our refrigerator, our toaster, our toilet, it can even be connected to the internet. Why, I have no idea, but a lot of people want to do these type of things. And it makes it very difficult when there are cyber challenges and hackers that are, of course, trying to monitor people and cause havoc out there. So I see these problems as continually growing and a better understanding of the wireless side of things in conjunction with some of the cybersecurity efforts there. Well, we were contacted end of last year by the Department of Homeland Security, in particular the Mobile Command Center. And what they do is they have to assess different threats that are brought about. And in this particular case, they had the threat of drones and that of large stadiums. So imagine a large sporting event where you've got 50 or 100,000 fans that are there. And now imagine somebody shows up outside this stadium with a drone. And they want to simply fly that drone in and drop down. And sometimes it could be innocent, just to videotape their favorite, sports player in action. But other times they have to be careful. But what if there's a threat on there? What if there's something such as C4 explosive, radiological means, right? Chemical weapons on there. All of these things we all know you can go on the internet, figure out, and couple into there very, very easily. And that's really where the concern is. And just to demonstrate that, what we did was we brought a drone out here and we coupled it up with C4. It's not real C4, it's a prop, so don't get nervous there. And just to give you an idea, can you fly a drone with the equivalent weight of C4? A lot of people ask that question. Is it even possible? Can it fly? Can it take off, land? Sure it can. And we proved it. We've done it. In fact, last week, Craig and I went down in Trenton, down at the State House. We were brought in. Again, Department of Homeland Security asked us to testify about drones and critical infrastructure and the danger and the threats that they pose. And it was very interesting realizing they don't fully get how dangerous it can be. They're often worried about a peeping Tom where a drone flies in and spies on somebody. That's not that big of a concern. But when it landed on the White House lawn, a little bit of a concern there. It wasn't an immediate threat, but they took some action. It happened again. Back in April in Japan, what happened? Landed on the Prime Minister's roof. There was some radioactive material on a drone. Takes it to the next level. Now you add C4 or other things to these common drones that you or I could buy. There's a big concern there. There's a very big concern. So we're going to take a minute and ask Craig to get it up in the air. And then we could take a look at it. And then I could talk about some of the specifics. Do you want me to hit the little video first? Let's see if I can click on that. Just show you a short clip while he's getting that going there. Okay. How do I switch this down? How do I just transfer to the screen there? That's what I want to do.
Awesome.
Sweet, that's it.
Can you pick up? Are you recording that?
Okay. Good to kick it? Okay.
Spot down here that gives you the MAC address for the drone, the signal strength, and it calculates from the signal.
Hold on one second. This is not an Apple, so I apologize. How in the world? There we go.
Drone detection. Yellow jacket Wi-Fi analyzer, and it's looking at Wi-Fi addresses now, and it's posting MAC addresses and SSIDs. It's looking for personal type drones like Parrots and DJI Phantom 2s, those type of drones that work with Wi-Fi. When it detects a drone, it puts up an alert screen, a highlighted spot down here that gives you the MAC address for the drone, the signal strength, and it calculates from the signal strength the approximate distance. You can locate the pilot by hitting Locate Pilot. You point the directional antenna and you scan around. You can find the highest strength for the pilot signal. Wi-Fi goes maybe several hundred yards. You can't just do it with software. This is the part that detects the Wi-Fi, and then you need the tablet with the analyzer software.
Oh, great. Okay, good. All right, now we're going to switch it back here. And just keep in mind, we encourage you to stay in your seats. Don't raise your hand up like Enrique Iglesias the other week. Violates all the liability. That's right. Your waiver covers this. So, what Craig's doing here, he's not using any GPS navigation, obviously, indoors. This is a DJI Inspire. This drone sells for about $3,000. Very advanced optics on it. High def. He is recording all of this as well, so you'll be on a video. We'll tell you about that later. The approximate speed, he could exceed about 50 miles per hour with this drone. Can go up about half a mile with a Wi-Fi range extender. And he's got payload that he could also pick up items with it as well if he needs to carry something. You could start to see he gets pretty good ability to fly this. Today's his first time flying it, so he's not doing too bad here. With the actual wireless connection, he's controlling it there. He's got 2.4 gigahertz unlicensed wireless. It's not using the Wi-Fi band for this particular model, and a 5 gigahertz video downlink. So he could record it all in high definition as well, which is pretty cool. We've taken this up even at nighttime and get a flight. During a large storm in New Jersey, as the snow was coming down, and it actually could fly smooth as silk in the middle of a snowstorm with wind gusts and snow. It's pretty amazing. We have a clip up on YouTube if you ever want to visit the site to see. But it's pretty impressive. Now, why do we come here to fly a drone? It's really to think about all the different things that you could do. But what we did was we developed software after contacted by this mobile command center because they had some specific concerns with most of the drones that are out there, which are the lower cost ones that do use Wi-Fi protocol to communicate. So what we did was we modified some of our software. We developed a hardware engine, which is really a software-defined radio. It's not a chipset there or a LAN card that typically people will use if they're trying to sniff Wi-Fi packets, but rather it's a RF front end that we designed along with a software-defined radio. Couple that together with direction finding capability and an algorithm and demodulating so we could hone in and find the particular MAC address of a drone. So what we'll do, and you can see it up on the screen here a little bit here, and he mentioned it in the video, we'll look for a particular MAC address, and then we can calculate where the threat is coming from, what direction, via the direction finding antenna, how far is the drone away, and that's an approximate distance there. We'll calculate based upon the signal strength. And then we could also do something really neat. We could tell you the manufacturer, click the button, you pull up the specs on the drone. Now you know how far the drone has as far as range, altitude that it can go, what frequencies it operates on, all the information you need to take that threat out. How do they take it out? Sometimes they shoot it. Depending upon the law enforcement agency or government agency, they may try to jam it. They may take up a counter drone to take it up and fly above it, drop a net on it, crash into it. A lot of different ways that they'll try to take the threat out. Difficult to take over the actual signals and fly it down, but they're working toward that end there so they could move in and take out the threat out of the sky. The part I like about this in our development, they also asked us, could we identify the pilot? Because what's more important, really, the drone or the pilot? They're both important, but oftentimes these drones, they'll couple them up with, you know, maybe C4 with a mobile phone on it, so at the click of a button they could blow the drone up. It's gone. Or they could, again, fly this into a sporting arena or any area where there's a large number of people, press the button, trigger an IED, blow it up, and the drone is gone in a million pieces. So the threat disappears. So what we did was we focused in also on locating to see who the drone, that access point in a sense there, who the STA is associated to, that being the pilot, where the signal comes from. And now we can direction find on the pilot, the bad guy that's hiding somewhere in the radius of flying the drone. A lot of times it's not always line of sight as one might envision, because what they'll do is they'll couple it to a booster so they could further extend the range, hide in a building, a van, somewhere out of the way, and fly the drone because they could see on the screen what's going on, what the drone sees. So it's a neat way for some of these hackers, or I shouldn't say hackers, terrorists or whatever we call them that are trying to take out a large group of people to effectively use a drone. So it's a true threat that they have there. Another way is something such as this. And what this is simply an AP bridge. So what you could do with an AP bridge is you could basically connect it on there, and you could see on the picture coming up on the slide, I think we got a shot of it. You may be able to see it in here. No, it's not on that one. Well, coming up on one of the slides, you'll see it. And you could hook up, as we did here, C4 or an AP bridge. And now you could perform a man-in-the-middle attack, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with, where you could actually fool or spoof somebody that's on their mobile phone and now talk to the bridge AP. And suddenly you can take over, control that. You could log all that information like you would with a keylogger or some other type of means, and then store that information. Maybe it's contacts or credentials or passwords, whatever the target that the hacker is going after there. They could effectively use this. And look at this. This weighs about ½ a pound. A drone such as this, he could probably take 4 to 5 pounds of payload easily and still go up about ½ a mile, flying 50+ miles per hour. So a very effective tool if somebody wants to hack a particular network at a building, fly above somebody else, whatever the case may be, for a man-in-the-middle type of attack there. What happens if the drone is not Wi-Fi? It is going to be most likely using the ISM, Industrial Scientific Medical Band, which is at usually 900 megahertz, 2.4 gigahertz, 5 gigahertz, such as this drone here. But it may not be using the protocol, the IEEE standard, 802.11b, A, N, G, and so on and so forth. They do something proprietary. What we'll do is then put it into a spectrum analysis mode on our yellow jacket. So we'll cover 2 gig to 5.9 gigahertz. We could put up a peak hold, and now you can direction find on the signal strength energy and still hunt it down. You don't get all those beautiful things such as the MAC address, the SSID, all the other information that we're demodulating there from the packets, but you still do get some information so you can hunt down the drone or the threat there, as well as interference or anything else there. Now, a lot of us think about drones, and we all see Amazon delivering boxes and packages and delivering of pizza. I saw one video the other day, a 12-pack of beer they delivered. I thought it was a pretty cool one, actually, and it does work, and it's true. So the payload is getting to be bigger and bigger, what you can carry on there, and the distance is getting better, the batteries are getting lighter, the props are improving, the compounds that they're making up, it's all fiber composite materials, such as the advanced cars are using. So pretty advanced technology that is being put forth in these drones. So the threat is only going to get worse and worse. So it's very important, I guess, to appreciate where the industry is going. The company DJI is really, that's the manufacturer of this drone. They're based out of China. They're doing about $100 million in business just selling drones. In the United States alone, there's a little more than 200,000 drones a month that are sold. Pretty amazing statistics. That's just one company we're talking about here. And there's a lot of other, you hear the Parrots and a lot of these other ones coming out. I think the Lily is another one that's pretty neat, where it's paired to your watch. You could throw it up in the air and it will follow you as you go to work or jog or whatever else. Waterproof and so on and so forth. which is a big concern. Craig lost one of the older, I think it was DJI Phantom, up north. We have a cabin on a lake, and he took it up there pretty high, and I think one of the neighbors got pissed at us, and I think they took their jammer out and knocked it out of the air, and it took a drink right in the bottom of the lake, never got it back, $1,000. So these things do happen. There are casualties with flying drones. The public is becoming more and more concerned. There's a report today even that somebody paralleled, I think it was a Southwest flight, and coming into Dallas, they flew a drone right next to it. Probably not the brightest thing to do. The pilots saw it visual, air traffic saw it as well. They didn't tell any of the passengers. They landed the plane safely, and eventually they caught the culprits that were flying it. They reported. Hopefully they were using our technology to hunt them down. We don't know yet. But interesting things that are coming out. Here's just a picture of some stupidity, I guess. During the concert there, Enrique Iglesias the other week, I guess he has a drone land in, coming pretty close, and he got a little too close and tried to grab the thing, and it sliced the tips of his fingers off. So it's a quadcopter, exact model as this. Those props spin pretty fast. So if you're not real careful and you get your fingers there, you can lose them. That's why we say keep your seats there. You don't want to get hurt or something like that. Now, talking about some threats too, we know, we probably all heard back in, I think it was January of this year, the White House, it was a Phantom that dropped on the White House lawn. Within about a couple hours of that, I got a phone call from Fox, and they're saying, what happened? Is the White House going to blow up? So a lot of times the media takes these things and sensationalizes them and turns them into something else. It was no immediate threat, at least, and there's been several other attempts to fly drones over there, as we've probably heard about, as well as Paris and others. It's really the critical infrastructure. There's a great concern, though, be it this country here, the government, as really the countries abroad, because there's nothing really to protect them from drones coupling them with any type of thing. You think about something as simple as a nuclear plant, right? What keeps a nuclear plant going is electricity. Because if you don't have electricity, you can't keep the reactor cool. So if you were a bad guy and you were thinking like a bad guy, you took a drone with C4 on it, and you took another drone with C4 on it, you go hit the power coming into the plant, number one. Now you go take up the backup generator. Take that out. And something this size could then take down the power to a nuclear plant. It would overheat, and you can only imagine the devastation that could result. So it seems like a toy. A lot of people joke about it, but it is a serious threat. So your price point of entry to be a bad guy, a terrorist, whatever you want to call it, it's a couple $1,000s. And taking the risk, and people are doing it every day. We don't hear a lot about it on the news, but if talking to different, at least government agencies here, it's a real threat, and they are actively battling that, and it's difficult to effectively combat because there's so much critical infrastructure spread out, even in rural areas. So the challenge will continue to go on. We're going to see larger payloads, faster speeds, further distance, improved optics, and I think the threat will be exploited further and further. This just talks a little bit more about the man-in-the-middle attack. So if anybody tried to access ShowMeCon free Wi-Fi earlier, that was just us here. And we downloaded basically some malware to your phone. Just kidding. Well, maybe we're not kidding. I don't know. So you have to look at that. Something as simple as a man-in-the-middle attack, be it coupled to a drone, somebody brings a device in, very tempting. Yet again, how many people will go for that free Wi-Fi because they don't want to spend $5 or $10? It's amazing. My recommendation is always get an LTE hotspot. And then you could be your own hotspot. You can then host and have Wi-Fi. And it's much, much harder to crack LTE than it is to hack into Wi-Fi or a lot of these other protocols that are so common where there's so many apps and things that you could compromise it simply. We all could do that. This just gives, again, a picture of it. This was, we tried some tests there for man-in-the-middle attack back in the labs and then outside our building there, coupling it to the drone. And then this was a test with coupling it with an IED, flying it around, just to see how it flies and how good or bad it is. We don't want to push it here, because when you add too much payload, you do have a little more challenge with flying it and doing tricks and things. And when you're outside, you have GPS to navigate, to keep it, to help balance it with stabilizers and such. Here, he's just doing it basically by the joystick, so a little riskier, so I wanted to be careful there. And that's basically it. I don't know if anybody had any questions there. How's our time looking there, man? 3 minutes. We got 3 minutes of questions, so feel free to ask. Please, right here, sir. Yep. Can't do what now? I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't think you... Yeah, there are, and a lot of people are doing that, and again, thinking like a bad guy if you're going to use a drone. Not that you guys would do bad things like that, but if you were using a drone to cause havoc or hack or do anything else, you could encrypt it to make it more difficult. Again, that's where somebody's going to probably use a spectrum analyzer, direction finding antenna, and other techniques. Makes it a lot harder and more timely to actually hunt the guy down and stop the threat. But yeah, good point. Yeah, yeah. You can't easily unencrypt it, demodulate it, and do all that stuff real time, fast enough so it could be useful information to stop the threat. It would be a challenge. So a good way to counter it, make it difficult. Oh, right here, please. I didn't, unfortunately, because I was coming down. I had to take care of something. Well, we make a separate Bluetooth tester as well besides this software-defined radio that does Wi-Fi. The only challenge with Bluetooth a lot of times is it's very short range. They talk about long range. Real-world conditions, it's not that long a range as I think most people would like. It's a challenge. But it's a promising technology. We've been supporting Bluetooth. We actually build a Bluetooth transceiver. I often use it when I go to boardrooms and talk about security. And when you do that, we are transmitting. We can invoke and talk to your mobile phone without you knowing that we're talking to it. And then I could look and see what type of device you are, the different classes, who you can talk to, permission, signal strength, couple it to a DF antenna, and hunt down the Bluetooth as well. Any other questions? I think we've got another minute here. This one I probably get about 20 minutes or so, which is actually pretty impressive if you think about it. And again, they're lithium batteries. They're getting lighter weight. They're holding more power. Usually we got like 3 or 4 batteries, so you could swap them out to do the stuff that we do. But it's very popular in film, media, this type of drone here, where you can really zoom in close range, get a great shot. You could pan. You could do all kinds of tricks that you need in the film industry. So that guy's very popular. You'll notice it more and more. We'll take some of the film that Craig recorded here, the high def. We'll put it up on our website too. You can go to hackedagain.com. We're also releasing a book end of this summer. Yes, we are guilty. That it's actually the story of our company. Even though we build security tools and we report on security and all the different breaches, we became a target. And of course, we're hacked and compromised. So it's our story of getting hacked and sharing some of the techniques in the story that we've been through and how to protect yourself and your business to prevent yourself from getting hacked. And we cover the basic ones, the Sony, the iCloud hack, Target, Home Depot, so on and so forth in there. I think end of summer it'll be coming out there. Please.
So have you guys, like, talking about like so for instance, you know, I've got
Mm-hmm.
so like for instance, I use like TikTok. So, you know, I've got a 950 megahertz tree, which is basically transmitting serial information that's not encrypted.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so ultimately, you know, if you were looking for something like that, you'd have to figure out, you know, what the baud rate or what that stuff is.
Sure.
Then you can actually pull out the actual GPS coordinates and everything are all.
It's all being transmitted, sure.
Attitude,
Mm-hmm.
so that information, and I mean, that was very valuable. But I would think the bigger threat then is that if you're using something more open source, like the helicopter, that's
Sure.
therefore you have mission plan. Mission plan allows you to basically go in there and say, which is what I see as a much more risky threat.
Yeah.
It basically says, you know, I bring up my Google map, I
Point here, boom.
they fly there, you know, and I close everything up, it takes off, and
Yeah.
I go inside.
Yeah.
Ultimately, there's no way to control it, but it's not.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way, because ultimate threat, I think. And that's what's evolving. I think not as many people are there yet using it or have the knowledge base of it, but it's coming around the corner, we could clearly see. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Point A to point B, it's tough to stop it. Yeah. Yeah, a rifle works really well, and a lot of people are doing that. And we're analyzing some other areas. Obviously, and there's an audio fingerprint. You can play with props and other things there to change that signature if you want. There's also some stuff in the frequency domain that we're experimenting with drones in the lab, so we can kind of characterize them and take that threat out as well. But there's a lot of advanced research. It's kind of keeping up with the technology as it continually evolves. So I find it fascinating, since our area of expertise is really in the radio frequency spectrum and drones. You bring those two together, it's a wonderful pair. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, very good point. How's our time there, Ben? We're good. Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate your attention. Thank you.